Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics. In association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy roundtable brought to you by First Star Therapy. I'm your host, James Gardner, and this is a platform for the pros, by the pros. Passionate pros, organic dialogue. Let's chat. Thanks for listening. Let's roll. And away we go. Here we go. Session 61, First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy roundtable brought to you by First Star Therapy and our primary sponsor, Mobility Tape, the only heat-activated kinesiology tape on the market, Canadian-owned natural healthcare product, a no-brainer for every therapist and practitioner out there. Also brought to you in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapy Association. So for all of those here live, appreciate you being here. Brian is in the room. We're ready to rock and roll for session 61. Appreciate all of your time. Everybody picking this up on the podcast, picking this up on the YouTube channel. Appreciate the support. Keep spreading the word. Things are moving. Lots of great guests coming on, including this one that we've been looking forward to for a long time, trying to line this thing up. Brian Cheeseman enters into his 11th season as the head athletic therapist for the Oil Kings in Edmonton from 2010 until present with them. Lots to go on with that as well. He holds a Bachelor of Kinesiology from Memorial University and a Bachelor of Applied Sciences in Athletic Therapy from Sheridan College. He began his athletic therapy career in the WHL, working for the Tri-City Americans during the 2009-2010 season. He was a member of the Oil Kings staff who enjoyed WHL championships in 2012 and 2014, and a Memorial Cup championship in 2014 as well. The Mount Pearl, Newfoundland native served as an athletic therapist with Hockey Canada for the U17 Pacific team in 2012 and won gold at the 2013 Ivan Hlinka Memorial Tournament. He was named Athletic Therapist of Team Canada for the IIHF World Junior Hockey Championship in Finland in 2016, again in Montreal and Toronto in 2017, where the team captured a silver medal. In 2018, he captured a gold medal with Team Canada at the IIHF World Junior Championship in Buffalo. Most recently, he was a member of the 2021 Canadian national junior team who picked up a silver medal at the World Junior Hockey Championships in Edmonton. Cheeseman has also served as a member of the staff of Team Cherry at the 2014 Top Prospects Game, Team WHL at the 2016 CIBC Canada-Russia Series, and was a member of Team OR at the 2019 Sherwin-Williams CHL NHL Top Prospects Game. He resides in Edmonton, Alberta, with his wife Adrienne and dog Dakota. Brian Cheeseman, a pleasure having you on, man. It's been a long time coming. Thanks for being here. I'll let you say hello and then want to share your story. It's an amazing one.
Well, yeah, first of all, James, thanks for having me. I've been catching a lot of these Let's Chats either live or on YouTube or commuting back and forth to the rink via podcast. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, kudos to you for getting this thing going during the pandemic. I know it's been a great source of entertainment and information for athletic therapists and aspiring athletic therapists as well. So good on you for getting this initiative off the ground.
I appreciate that, man, but it goes a longer way coming from you. This is where it stems from, good conversation, high quality individuals, people who have been in it a long time, doing different things. And like I mentioned, we've been trying to get this thing, I think, since the summer, trying to line up a good time, and you've been a busy guy. Bubbles, inside of bubbles, outside of bubbles, staying in bubbles, growing big beards, not growing big beards. I spent a large majority of my day today debating whether you would have a beard or not. I haven't seen you in a while, and then waffling back and forth as to like what my preference was. Do I want to see him with a beard? Do I not? None of this is relevant other than it's pretty relevant, and here you are. So listen, man, I want to jump right into this thing. You've been a big part of like COVID and hockey and exploring all of this space, but before we get to any of that, like this is a profession that reaches anywhere and everywhere in the world and the globe. And we always like to dive into sort of where it started and how it started. So let's go back a little bit. You got a wall pasted with jerseys, plenty of experience. You got the hat there in the background for Hockey Gives Blood, which I'd love to touch on with you as well. But let's start with, I don't know, where did this start as an idea, as a profession for you?
Yeah, and like most things in my life, it literally fell into my lap. For those that know me, know I grew up in Newfoundland, and I was a decent student in high school, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I kind of thought I'd piggyback off of the then booming offshore oil industry in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I registered at Memorial University thinking that was going to be my path in life, and I got in there, and it wasn't for me. And I remember, coming home one evening and having dinner with mom and dad and my brother, and, the classic, well, how'd your day go? What'd you do today? Well, guys, day was pretty good, but I dropped out of university. And there was that kind of awkward pause. And my dad spoke up and said, okay, that's good. We'll support you in that endeavor, but you're going to need to get a full-time job. And no problem. At the time I was working part-time as a security person / usher at the Memorial Stadium in St. John's. And that turned into a full-time job at the new stadium, Mile One. And I actually got the position, by happenstance, I guess, on the Leafs, St. John's Maple Leafs dressing room area, and got to know their staff and their players a little bit. And that's where I got to know athletic therapist Nick Addy-Jib. And, we struck up a conversation one day at practice, and I said, Nick, like, do you mind if I come in someday just to kind of see what this is all about? And he was all about it. And a couple of days later, I found myself in the therapy room at the rink. And honestly, man, within 30 minutes of me being in there, I'm like, yeah, this is it. I could see myself doing this. And that kind of lit the spark. And yeah, from there, I went to kinesiology program at Memorial, and was lucky enough to do a work placement with Nick again in the Leafs throughout, towards the tail end of that degree. And, that opened up some good doors for me in hockey. But, again, right place, right time, right person. And we still keep in touch today. And oddly enough, it came full circle during my time in the NHL playoff bubble in August and September there. I actually got to meet up with Nick again. He's an assistant athletic therapist with the Vancouver Canucks. So it was pretty cool to catch up in that environment and reminisce about how it all started. And yeah, it's just the way it goes for me, man. Right place, right time, right people, I guess. So.
I think that's a critical piece of this as well, right? But it doesn't just happen. I mean, we look back and we say it was just happenstance, but you put yourself there with, making a connection, finding a connection, and then following the thing that you were passionate about. And I think that's one thing about our profession that really seals the deal as to, those of us that stick in this thing and make it work is there's a desire to help others. There's a desire to stay in and help ourselves and continue to grow and find different ways to do things. And I just can't help myself. Just my eyes are bouncing from jersey to jersey in the back. And like, it's amazing. I was going through minor league baseball and would collect a hat in every city that I was going to. And not because so that I could have it to show it off, but because it held something special. Every day, every road trip, every something it's it's all of the hard work that's gone to get you to that place, and it's acknowledging all of those things. I'd love to hear some stories about some of those jerseys in the back as well. But you know, it's not, I mean, it is circumstantial and it's coincidental, I guess, but like, how did that original sort of like, yeah, work in security, and then you had to ask, right? Like you had to put yourself out there to have that conversation to say, hey, can I check out what you do? And that's a pretty brave and you know, vulnerable way to go about finding what you want, but you did it. And so that's where it started. And you said like sparked it, and now it's like full flame. Like you are working in Edmonton now. So just describe the WHL maybe for those viewers that aren't familiar, those listeners that aren't familiar with the setup. How does the WHL, where does that fit into sort of the picture of hockey in Canada and North America and the world overall?
Yeah, excellent question. So in the Western Hockey League, we operate under the umbrella of the Canadian Hockey League, which also includes our partners in the Ontario League and the Quebec Major Junior League. And, you know, typically we play a 68-game season. We would have had training camp at the end of August, end of September, you know, regular season game one. But like everybody else in the world, not just in the sports world, COVID has thrown an absolute massive wrench into everybody's, you know, professional and day-to-day lives. And we've been lucky enough through a lot of hard work behind the scenes, through, you know, team doctors, team therapists, you know, consulting doctors, to finally have a return to play protocol that was given approval through Alberta Health Services to, you know, to begin a shortened, abbreviated 24-game season. So I was able to be a part of that process to help with designing our return to play plan. And it's some long hours, a lot of phone calls, a lot of Zoom meetings. But you know what, I learned a lot along the way. And I think the experiences that I've had through the NHL return to play process, and as well as the IIHF World Juniors with Team Canada, kind of helped me understand that and be able to explain it to people on those committees and to other people within our league who didn't really have that knowledge base, kind of how things should go. And, you know, we were lucky enough to be able to use the Oilers team physician, Dr. Duran Naidu, who also worked with the NHL return to play protocol in the summer. Again, here in the winter, he was, you know, integral part of the bubble. And so we were able to use him, which was an incredible resource for us. So, yeah, we're getting ready here in Alberta. We're only going to play within our province, so I'll see a lot of Calgary, Red Deer, Medicine Hat, and Lethbridge this year. But you know what, I'm excited, but more importantly, I'm excited for our players to have an opportunity. You know, we practiced last week for the first time in 335 days that group of teenagers and young men were together. And you know, the excitement is infectious, and, you know, you can't help but smile every day you go to work, just seeing how excited they are to be back in that environment. So to be able to play a small role behind the scenes and to continue to do that on a daily basis is something I definitely don't take for granted.
Yeah, and amazing stuff. And you say small role and you say behind the scenes, but you're playing a pivotal role in a lot of lives. And I think that's another key piece of what we do, you know, and I don't think we do a good enough job as athletic therapists, you know, puffing our chest up and saying, you know, we're having impact on a daily basis, whether it's a conversation, handing a tissue, making a call for somebody, looking out for the well-being of somebody's partner or their children, or in this case, you know, somebody else's children. You're working with teenagers and shaping their lives beyond hockey. And I think these are all critical pieces. And the other part is like, so you don't just tape ankles, because now you're a part of returning to play in the midst of a pandemic. So you're having conversations with physicians, you're having government conversations, you're having legislative conversations, and all of these different things. So I just think like this is the more and more that I listen, and I've been looking forward to having you on, that I'm probably stumbling over my words here, because you're an integral part of sort of spreading the knowledge of what we can be as a profession, and all of those other conversations, and how the spokes kind of spread, you know, from a central piece that is athletic therapy, and working in the corners and the dark hours, the late hours, and behind the scenes in order to make things work. And I think those are critical pieces. So I'll thank you openly for all the work that you're doing, not only for the Edmonton Oil Kings, but for all of hockey, and for all of us as athletic therapists, because this is work that shouldn't go unnoticed. And I think in these times, again, like I just want to drive this home. This is the means of this platform is to connect people. It's to showcase what we do. But it's also to celebrate what we do and you, Brian, because I don't think we've met maybe in person, maybe in passing one time, but I look up to you. I constantly follow what you're doing out there. We have acquaintances in different people in the hockey world and the baseball world in this case, and lots of overlap. So I applaud you. I thank you for all that you're doing, and it looks good on all of us as athletic therapists and as practitioners in the performance space. So jumping back into those conversations in terms of, I don't want to spend all the time in COVID, but you've had a part of this. So in playoffs for the NHL last season, you're in Edmonton. You're not with the Oilers, who are the NHL team, but you're in Edmonton, and you get, let's say, for lack of a better term, drawn into the bubble. How did that happen? Why did that happen? And then maybe some of the things that you learned while you were in there.
Yeah, so I got a call from Oilers equipment manager Jeff Lang early in July saying, hey, we're putting a bid in. There's potential that we could get it, and we'd like to have, myself and by extension, the Oil Kings equipment manager and my partner in crime at work, Rogan Dean. We wanted to have, you guys be a part of it. And I didn't think anything of it. And, you hear rumors that it's going to be in Vancouver, it's going to be in Edmonton, it's going to be in Vegas, so you just really don't pay attention. And I got a call from Rich Villani at the National Hockey League towards about the third week in July. My wife and I had just arrived at her parents' place in Summerland, British Columbia for some vacation. And, here I am at the start of vacation, taking a call that's essentially, going to put me back in Edmonton for maybe a month, but that turned into 65 days in the return to play bubble. And, I was nervous about it, and I'm not going to lie. At the time, I was very nervous about COVID and everything that had come with it. We were only 4 months into the pandemic at that point, and it was. I'm not going to lie, it's a scary time. And talked to Rich, and he told me all about the protocols and what I would be doing as part of the team services group for the event. And I talked it over with my wife, and she's like, well, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And, you're going to be able to be around all these other therapists and athletic trainers from across North America. And, it was a great opportunity to pick brains, basically. And that's what I like to do when I'm at those events. If I can, I do. And, when I work with Hockey Canada, I like to pick the brain of my therapy partners like Kevin Elliott, Joey Garland, Kyle Sutton, Dan Buckland, just guys to name a few that I've worked with over the years. And so got in the bubble, and it was a phenomenal experience. It was honestly the safest place to be. You're being tested every day. You're having to check in on an app twice a day with symptoms and temperatures. And so it was a good intro to, sports in a pandemic and what it really takes to pull off an event of that magnitude. And 65 days and nights at a hotel 20 minutes from my house, and a front row seat to essentially watch some of the best hockey I've ever had the privilege of watching in my life. It was incredible. And it allowed me to network and, to put faces to names of guys that I'd only really talked to via email because of having a prospect or so on, or, they're looking for information potentially on a draftable player. And it was really cool that way too, to kind of meet these guys and get to know them on a little bit, not only professional level, but on a personal level too. And it was a pretty cool experience, one that I can say I definitely won't forget anytime soon. So.
Yeah, and an amazing share. And I think, looking from inside the sport world, there's a lot of benefit from it. But also, if we can step out of the sports world and see what's being gained by all the lessons being learned and all the protocols being put in place through sport and all of these different things. A lot of people from outside of sport and having conversations that said, like, why does sports get to happen and all those other things. And the one thing that I sort of always turn to is there's a ton of resources in sport. And I think a ton of those resources are going to be spent on, allowing this to trickle down into amateur sport and lay the groundwork for why and how and when and all these other questions that we're trying to determine with that. Now, you're in a bubble in the NHL working sort of amongst and as sort of a liaison role in that you're in Edmonton and facilitating things for different teams and different practitioners. Amazing perspective to sit back and you're there and you can pick all these brains of these NHL, trainers and athletic therapists and strength coaches and watch some great hockey and be around it and all those things. Obvious adjustments had to be made. So physical practices as a therapist, physical practices of being in the rink had to be adjusted. How did your sort of your timing, your daily schedule, how did that look while you're in there? Again, it's amazing to see this on a different side because you're not there with a team per se. You're there with all of the teams. So what does your days look like in terms of hours spent and time on Zoom calls and in and out of the rink and all those other things?
Yeah, you know what? They were long days, but again, nothing that anyone in the athletic therapy field is not already used to. Whether you work in clinic, you work with an amateur team, professional team, you know what the daily grind is like. And I'm a creature of habit. And for me, not being able to be around the rink full time since our season got essentially halted and canceled in March, I really enjoyed that, getting back on that daily grind at the rink and, long days and, being busy and just being in that environment. And, it definitely was it was a humbling experience. And I think it made me appreciate what we do as therapists even more. It's to be able to be a part of that event and just to see how hard those other therapists and trainers were working and strength coaches. Again, it made me realize how fortunate we are to be in this industry. And we've all been impacted. Like let's not kid ourselves. Whether again we're in a clinical practice, we're with a team or a national program. There's been a lot of curveballs that have come our way collectively as a group of athletic therapists this year. But I think that kind of Swiss Army knife mentality and that adaptability that comes with being an athletic therapist. I think when you're given a challenge like COVID and you have protocols that you have to adhere to, you just jump in with both feet, because your first thing is, okay, what is it going to take for me to get this thing going again? And then what is it going to take for me to keep not only myself safe, but the staff around me and my players, my athletes safe? And once you can tick those two boxes, I think it's just business as usual. I mean, I've had the same conversation with our players and our billets and our coaching staff and management. What we're asking people to do right now in a return to play protocol for the Western League is no different really than what anyone has already been doing for 11 months. We're physically distancing, we're wearing masks, we're not reinventing the wheel here. We're just adding a little extra layer of protection in, and I hate using this term, but the new normal, right? It's not new anymore. It's just normal for us. It's day to day. It is what it is. So I think that's been a big key too. So.
Yeah, no, amazing. And the shares go a long way. You're trend setting, but you're also following the trends. And I think those additional layers that sort of keeping everybody safe. And you touched on it early on, and then you just touched on it again. And in our preparation through our education, like I've had great mentors, you've had great mentors. We have great colleagues and friends and awesome times at conferences and things like this to rehash some of those relationships and build some of these things. But I've always been led by the mentality of like, plan for the worst case scenario and then everything else is hunky-dory, as long as that doesn't happen. And even if it does, you at least have a game plan in place. And it sounds like very much that's a level-headed approach to this thing, is just making sure that those, like you said, those boxes are ticked. You're safe first, like put your oxygen on first, and then you can help somebody else, right? Like it's that mentality. And I think that's important to hear, and one step further to that is the athletic therapist in this space that you work in the space that you took on. And I'd love to dive into the IIHF 2021, because that was drastically different as well. But I posted like on social media today a picture of Drew McDonald, who's with the Blue Jays, getting ready to go to spring training, and the most beautiful picture I've seen in a long time. It still gives me chills and brings tears to my eyes. Is holding his newborn baby and holding his son, and his wife, I think, took the picture, and he's leaving to go to spring training. And I think that captured the strength of what it takes to be in this profession in pro sports. It captures all of those things, from the strength of a wife, a partner, kids to go through, you to go through, being away from your partner, even though she's 20 minutes away. You're staying in a hotel in a bubble, and you guys can see each other through a fence and play the guitar to each other over Zoom and all the other things. But it's not the same, and there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into this on all sides. And so for people that are looking to get into the pro space, I think hearing these stories and seeing these things is crucial to understanding that it takes all of those things. And it's not just a matter of like, I'm going to work in pro sports and I'll just go from school to work in there. It's been a long time coming. You've been at this now 10 plus years into your 11th season, earned every step of it. I'm sure every step of it along the way, and got to be there again in the Edmonton bubble for the 2021 IIHF World Junior Championships this year, where some crazy things happened, right? Like the Germans lost a bunch of players. They couldn't travel because they had COVID. They had a limited roster. You guys had a guy break his wrist, I think it was like early on, the captain of the team, and like some things really had to pivot. That's an interesting scenario, because it's a whole bunch of kids coming from all over the place and have to learn to work together. So stepping away from COVID and into like that dynamic, how does that work as a therapist, and what does the staff look like? If you can sort of, I don't know, piece it together, like you're coming in and you don't really know any of these guys and the staff kind of knows each other. How does that look at a World Junior Championship?
Well, this year obviously was a completely different year than any of us who've, worked that type of event have ever faced before. And we normally get together in July and we'll have a 40 or 50 player camp. We'll come together as staff a few days before. We'll do meetings. Then we'll bring in that group that we've recognized as potential players and have some practice, usually play exhibition games. The last couple of years, it's been in Plymouth, Michigan, against the Americans, the Finns, and the Swedes. And obviously it wasn't possible this year. So, you talk about having to pivot, right? So Hockey Canada did a first ever pivoted to a virtual summer camp. And it was, the buy-in was incredible, from management to coaching staff to players to equipment managers to, the therapists, sport performance managers. Like, everybody was on board right from day one. And, we would have, a friend and colleague of ours, Adam Douglas, the manager of sport performance for Hockey Canada. He would run the guys through a virtual workout each morning, and then there'd be meetings, technical, tactical kind of stuff. Then we'd have breakouts, trivia, like each guy, we had 4 core values this year that our coaching staff came up with, and we got put in groups with the players, and we had to create our own presentations about what those words meant to us. And, it was different for everybody involved, but the buy-in was incredible. And it really allowed us, myself and Kevin Elliott, the other AT on staff, and our doctor from Red Deer, Dr. Barry Weens, that it really allowed us an opportunity to get to know these guys, I would say, better than we would have at an actual camp. At an actual camp, guys are coming and going. You know what it's like. You may not see an athlete in your treatment room for days because they're healthy and they don't want to pop in other than to maybe say hello. And, we were able to spend hours each day, either in smaller groups or bigger groups, with these guys and get to know personalities and get to know them on a personal level. And it was definitely a huge advantage. And it allowed, Kevin, myself, and the team physician to get closer with these guys, and then to be able to keep in touch with them, to feel comfortable keeping in touch with those guys in the run up to camp in November in Red Deer. And, when we then got to camp in Red Deer, it felt like we'd known these guys for years already, when in reality, collectively, we'd only probably met a handful each of these guys in person through our own leagues or through prior events. So that pivot to Zoom meetings in the virtual world definitely paid off. And I know there's a lot of clinicians right now that are because of, COVID restrictions in various areas of the country that have gone to that kind of virtual model. And I think it allows you to get to know your patients and your athletes, a little bit more in depth than you probably would in person. And it definitely was an advantage that we had for sure running into that camp in November, and then of course into the tournament itself in December and January.
Right. And some, yeah, I mean, you're behind the glass, you're behind the bench, some great insights there that not all of us have. And even through watching on TSN or whatever hub you're watching through, amazing insights to sort of see that and feel that. And I think that cohesivity that can be built through an online platform is pretty cool. And again, you coming on here and sharing your time and your story with whoever's listening and everybody who wants to listen, same thing. Like, this is what this is all about, is creating this access to people like you and roles that you're in, so that we can get some further insight and we can determine this is where I want to go, or that's somebody I want to talk to, or maybe it resonates, maybe it doesn't, maybe it defines like that's actually what I don't want to do, or whatever the case might be. But there's something unifying in getting on here, listening to these stories, that just goes such a long way, and I'm forever grateful and humble that you come on here. Adam Douglas obviously has been on here in the past, and we have some common ground there. And but the hockey world is fast and furious. The NHL is going now. You guys are getting ready to go out there. Let's shift gears out of hockey for a minute and just come around to sort of coming back to the profession of athletic therapy. And you came through, you did your kin stuff out east. At home, you navigated your way to Ontario, to Sheridan College. In going through, what were some things now reflecting back? I mean, all of us as students are probably a little bit different, but now that we've had the time to reflect back on it, some things that you wish you had done maybe different, or some things that you really, really picked up on in school, mentors, study habits, conversations. I don't know, one or two things that kind of stand out from your time at Sheridan.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I had the pleasure of talking to a fourth year class at Sheridan a couple of weeks ago, and this kind of topic came up. And I was a good student. I wouldn't say I was a great student. I struggled a lot when it came to the practical exam side of things at Sheridan. And the field side for sure. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. I struggled mightily. I mean, I failed it multiple times, and I kept at it, and my classmates, lab partners and professors and instructors really kind of pushed me to be better. And I think having that experience of failing and stumbling in that environment only better prepared me for the actual certification exam. By the time I got to that point in June of 2009, I was finally, we talk about athletes peaking, right? Like, short-term competition, you want them to peak right for that gold medal game or that championship game. And for me, I think having gone through those struggles in the practical environment throughout, my time at Sheridan, allowed me to refine that side of things, and allowed me to get better, and allowed me to grow more confident. And I peaked at the right time, because when I wheeled into that certification exam, there was nothing that the CATA could throw at me that was going to rattle me. And I'm forever grateful to people like Lorianne Hines and Christy McKenzie and Paul Breezewell and Chris Jackson and Elsa Recchio and Trevor Cottrell and on and on and on down the line for, believing in me and pushing me along when maybe I didn't, really have that internal drive myself. And, classmates like Drew McDonald, who has gone on to a great career in baseball here, and is probably watching the sunset off the coast of Florida right now with a nice cold bevy in his hand. No, who we're kidding. He's working hard right now. Guys like that, I looked up to while I'm going to school, and I still do. We're integral pieces in me being able to push it across the finish line. And she's going to kill me if I don't mention her, but my then girlfriend and now wife, has been an unbelievable support system for me throughout. I mean, it started in school, and carried on, right to this day. And, the biggest joke amongst our collective group of friends and now colleagues, I guess, is that the only reason I passed athletic therapy at Sheridan was because she was a year ahead of me and she gave me all of her notes. But she's a fantastic lady, and I'm forever grateful for her support and her love every day. And I can't do what I do without her, right? It just doesn't work. And she's made a lot of sacrifices for me to be able to do what I'm able to do in the athletic therapy world. And I mean, 118 days apart, with various hockey bubbles. I mean, it's if it wasn't for technology like FaceTime, it'd be tough for sure. But I'm very fortunate to have her in my corner. So
awesome, man, and appreciate that. And that's also a big lesson, and to share that with all of us is yeah. Well, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing that you would share that and that you acknowledge that, because that's a big piece of working in the pro space. That's a big piece of all of us is ensuring that we have support systems in place, whatever they look like, is to ensure that we can keep doing what we want to do or what we are driven to do. And the shares of Sheridan, we have some overlap there now. I was actually speaking to the fourth years on Thursday. I'm in there Thursdays with them now in sort of their stuff, and they're saying, oh yeah, he was on, he's great, he's fantastic, and this overlap with them about your sharing of what you're doing and expressing this. You and I aren't too dissimilar in that I wasn't a great student either. I got by. Everybody saw the passion and the drive and the desire to work in this space. But I keep talking to them now about, this is what we have as reality right now. We need to make these scenarios real. The one thing that I've learned over my time that I would share with anybody is once you're the smartest person in the room, get out of that room and find another one, because your opportunity to fail and make mistakes and have that pointed out by somebody who's already been there is only there to help you. No one's here to block your entry into anything. They're actually quite the opposite. Which is a nice little transition from how you navigated school and Sheridan and all those things to the professional space. You're at it a long time now. It's 11 years in the pro space. Are there some things that you would advise graduates or young therapists in the professional space or wanting to get in there that have helped you to succeed in pro sports outside of academia? Like, you've touched on so many things already that I think I could pick out, but is there something being in it that you would share to sort of remain successful and continue to stay in it and blossom while you're in it?
Yeah, excellent question. The biggest thing that I pride myself on is networking with others, and I think when you're starting out, the more people that you can connect with, not only in whatever sport or avenue you choose to go down in therapy, keep it broad. Don't as one of my old coaches would say, put the blinders on. Reach out to people in soccer, in football, in baseball, in clinical practice, Cirque du Soleil, different things like that. And you'll be surprised what you can learn just with a simple conversation with somebody. And, if first impressions are everything too, obviously, and who knows, it may come full circle for you. There may be an opportunity that comes up in one of their areas down the line, and they'll say, hey, I remember that guy, I remember that girl from a few years ago. And, it's very important to have a good network and a good support system around you. And, I know I can pick up the phone and call, for example, Kevin Elliott out in Charlottetown, and we can chat about different injuries, or I can call Mike Bernstein in Vancouver, same thing, or even just go across the hall. Well, not now because of COVID protocols, but a phone across the hall and talk to TD Force or Chris Davey with the Oilers about different injuries and how they approach it and things like that. And it's being open-minded, and you hit the nail on the head with, when you think you're the smartest person in the room, you better find a new room, because nobody has ever figured everything out. And if you are narrow-minded versus open-minded approach, if you're narrow-minded and stubborn and you think that this is the only way to do things, you're not going to set yourself up for very successful outcomes, or your patient or your athlete, and by extension your team potentially, for successful outcomes either. So it's being able to park your ego at the door and admit when you don't know the answer. And you can't tell an athlete, well, like, you can't be afraid, to tell an athlete that I'm really not sure what we should do next. Let's call this person, or let's call this person, or let's connect with another allied health professional. Let's talk to a physio. Let's talk to an RMT. Let's talk to a chiro, an osteo. And, as much as you want to be right all the time, you can't be afraid to fail, and you can't be afraid to be wrong. And I think that will set you up for success.
Yeah, as you're talking, I'm writing things down, and I think maybe one of the best things that we can pull from this too is, like, I don't know, goes such a long way with athletes. You know what I mean? Where, like, you're not going to be that egotistical, like, you got it right, you got it wrong. And if you're right all the time and then you get it wrong, like, that's it. Your your treatment sessions are over. Your referral points are over. So they're going to go to somebody else anyway. So being openly wrong, probably not your best ammo, but, like, being the I don't know and being able to refer, I did a little special edition with a couple physiotherapists on Friday, and that's the next sort of segue in here is the integrative approach, and hanging titles on the wall and just throwing them out and saying, like, and you touched on it already, is I want to be able to refer. I want to be able to, if I don't know, there needs to be somebody in place that can or does, and it becomes down to, is this hockey athlete, is this player, is this human in front of me going to get the best care possible from me? If not, I have to refer. I have to take my ego, check it, throw it away. It's not about that at all. It's about the collaboration to get the best centralized care for each and every individual. So what does that space look like in the WHL for you and with your team of therapy and coaches? Like, what's the reporting structure? What is the team made up of in terms of medical personnel in the WHL?
So for me here in Edmonton, we have a lead physician who is an emergency physician and a sports med specialist as well. So he also has two other game night physicians, same type of training under him. So they kind of interchange based on their own schedules. In addition to that, we have some orthopedic doctors that we can refer out to, from an allied health perspective. I've got a fantastic physiotherapist who actually, I still give him the gears about this. He started out as a student assistant with me years ago, and he was, I'm going to be an athletic therapist. And then I jokingly tell him, he went over to the dark side. He's a physio now, but he's fantastic. He's a good ear to bend again when I get stuck and I'm not sure kind of where to go with things. And so having him on board is great. We've got a fantastic chiropractor as well that will come in on game nights sometimes and do treatments for players after the game. And, we've got a dentist who is an unbelievable individual as well. And so that we've got a very good network of like-minded individuals who they want what's best for the patient and the player first and foremost. And collectively they're able to park their egos too, which is really cool. And it allows for a lot of collaborative, and open discussions on how we think we should approach things. And I'm not sure that everybody has that. It's not easy to get that, but I think when you start to park the me approach and you go for the we approach, I think you see some tremendous growth with that style, right? And then, for me in Edmonton, like, I've got a fantastic group of coaches and management that I work with. And I mean, we talk daily about everything, not just therapy, not just hockey, about life. And, I've got a great coworker too, an equipment manager, Rogan Dean. Him and I have been working together now for 11 years. And as much as we're colleagues, we're like brothers. And, that's your in-work support system, right? Is those people that you work with on a day-to-day basis. And, that's the heartbeat of the machine, right? And the players are very astute. Sometimes we don't give these teenagers and these young men enough credit. They can sense when things are off and when things are not clicking. And we've been able to establish a really good culture from the top down, and it filters into our room, and it makes for a family environment. And ultimately, throughout the course of a season, whether it's 68 games or 24 games, these people are your family, and you spend most of your time and most of your days of the week with them, and if you can establish a good relationship there, it definitely goes a long way.
Yeah, and it brings it back to what you touched on earlier, sort of having conversations and not closing doors, right? Just creating that while you can. As a student, ask lots of questions, be good to the people in your class, be good to your professors, ask lots of good questions, try to get connected, pay attention to First Star Let's Chat or as many other podcasts as you want, because there's a lot of great opportunities here to get connected with people who you may not have considered a role model or considered having access to. And that's the other part of this platform, is having access to somebody like you. There are some silver linings in this pandemic, such as a 24 game season and you having access on a Sunday night to have an off night to chat with us and share all of this insight that goes so much further than just 45 minutes or an hour. It's going to change lives, it's going to change outlooks, it's going to change a lot of different things, which is why we continue to drive this forward and continue to push these conversations and have them, and your support and listening goes a long way, Brian, and definitely in being here and sharing this. It builds that collaborative approach, it builds community more than anything else, and in this time maybe more than ever, that's what we all need, is a little bit more sense of that family atmosphere that you have in your locker room. We can have in our profession, but we can have in the professional space, and this is not limited to athletic therapists. I have some really great colleagues that are not in this space, that are PTs and chiros and all of these things, and the title goes away when you're having a conversation about the best possible outcome and best possible care. That no longer matters. You touched on the equipment, personnel, and the I will second that with like a clubhouse manager in baseball. If there are two people that I'm going to get to know when I take a job in pro sports, it's those two people, because they're going to be the backbone of everything that happens. And you piss them off one day, you better be sure you're bringing coffee the next day. So an amazing sort of insight that overlaps. I think we had some great ones in the Blue Jays organization through the minor leagues and even into the big leagues, and just connecting with them and just, minding your P's and Q's, but they're a part of a staff, and there's nobody above or below you, I don't think, as a therapist with a team. You have relationships and conversations with virtually, I venture to say you probably have more conversations as a therapist with other personnel, players, staff, management than anybody else. Is that fair to say? In your 11 years, like, you're probably the person who everything filters through?
Yeah, I'm kind of the gatekeeper, I guess, in more than one sense. I'm essentially the way that our dressing room layout flows. I'm the first person they see when they arrive, and I'm the last person they see when they leave. So it makes for some good conversations throughout the course of the day. And, it's something that I've definitely prided myself on, is, my open door kind of attitude. And, anybody can drop in at any time and have a conversation, whether it's about an injury, whether it's about rehab, or it's just they're not having a great day or they're not having a great week, and they just want someone else that they can talk to that isn't a coach or isn't an agent or isn't their parent or their girlfriend or what have you. So my ability to establish those relationships with my athletes, I think, is something I definitely am very very proud of over the years, and I definitely do take a lot of pride in that. So
yeah, amazing, man, and as you should. As we sort of get towards the end of this thing, I'm going to let you go because I know you don't get too many free nights, but we'll keep this for maybe we'll cap this at like another 10-15 minutes tops. But I've seen you, through social media channels, playing the guitar and doing these things. And we've had this conversation with people in the pro space before, and the brutal honesty of how do you find balance. I've sort of shifted away from asking you, how do you find balance? How do you tip your scale? Like, where do you go when you're out of the rink? What do you do to sort of find you or find time with your partner? Like how much of that is a consideration for you? And are there things that you found to be successful in navigating those spaces?
Yeah. And again, excellent question. For me, that was something I definitely struggled with a lot. And to put it in perspective for you, I don't think the non-hockey side of things for me really truly hit home until the tragedy in Humboldt. And it made me understand how fragile things can be. And I think I made a bit of a mental and an emotional pivot at that point that, I need to be more appreciative of things every day, and nothing in life is a given. And, you could get sick, anything could happen at any time. And that definitely was a turning point for me. And, I definitely, in the off season, I love to travel. Well, we can't travel very much now, but I love going to BC in the summertime with my wife, and being around the Okanagan, and doing some hiking and going to the wineries, and playing golf. And the pandemic really gave me a lot of time to rethink and refocus, and poured myself back into playing guitar. I'd played for almost 20 years up to that point, but I neglected it. They would sit in my spare room and collect dust, and it gave me a lot of time to kind of get back on that horse. And yeah, it's been great. And it's a great hobby to have, and I think you need to have something that you can turn to when you turn off that work switch and that therapy switch. And as one of your previous guests said, I mean, again, the hardest thing is because of these things right here, we're always on, right? So it's resisting the urge to answer every text and every call that you get when you're trying to spend some time with your partner, or you're out walking your dog, or you're just trying to have some me time. And I think we oftentimes we feel guilty in taking me time and taking time away from work, and kind of shutting our brains and our phones off. But ultimately we need that, right? Like we're human beings first and foremost, therapist second. And if we don't take care of ourselves, then we can't take care of anybody else. I mean, that's a pretty simple mantra to live by right there. And it's definitely something that I've really kind of come back around on here throughout the pandemic, and now being back at work again. So
yeah, and a beautiful share and insight that goes a long way. We just, as the athlete, is a human before they're anything else, so we need to treat it as such. Obviously, the Humboldt tragedy, shook a lot of people. There was some very close connections to us from York University and some other people, and for lots of people in the athletic therapy field and beyond. It's sometimes you look for the why, and maybe the why is to shake the rest of us that are still here, to continue on legacies, or to just be awake a little bit more, live a little bit firmer in what we're doing in the day-to-day. And those are great shares, and you have to find time, you have to carve that in, even if you're running your own clinic or doing your own thing, or working behind the bench, or going to spring training, or whatever the case might be. So some really great vulnerable shares, and I think that's a huge thing here. You're us as males, and in this space, I think it gets overlooked far too regularly, that vulnerability is actually strength, and we need to show that, and we need to showcase that, I think, in our profession a little bit more as well. And you do a great job just authentically in driving home what you're doing and who you are as a person. So really appreciate that. And we're not going just yet, but I'll just give the rundown on what's coming up for the next couple of weeks while I have you here. Next week, we're going to wrap up February with a really special guest, World Series champion and 19-year veteran of the Major League Baseball. Greg Zahn will be on, talking about his career in the big leagues and the injuries that he went through, and his relationships with the therapy and training staff and the performance space, living and working in Major League Baseball. We'll follow that up with part 2 of our Tommy John education series. Seems to be a little bit of a baseball theme as baseball gets back rolling as well. March 7th will be Jesse Litch, former big league pitcher with the Toronto Blue Jays, talking about his experience with Tommy John and his rehab and the components that went into that. So those are the next couple weeks. Some other amazing guests through March, but not to minimize this one. This is session 61 with Brian Cheeseman, currently with the Edmonton Oil Kings. An amazing story, man. You have a hat sitting behind you. Hockey Gives Blood. Do you want to touch on that? I think it's a great share, and obviously something that's important to you.
Yeah, so I first became aware of Hockey Gives Blood through an accident that hit kind of close to home for our Oil Kings family a few years ago. Our physiotherapist, who I spoke about earlier, Matt Gertzen, his then girlfriend, now fiance, was hit on the side of a freeway here in Edmonton, and basically was transported to the hospital with life-threatening injuries, was not given a very good outlook or prognosis or chance to live. And we reached out to Matt and said, hey, like, what can we do? And he said, you know what, there's not much anyone can do but donate blood. And our assistant coach, Luke Pierce, is on the board of Hockey Gives Blood, and he helped organize a team donation that day. And I was a first-time donor, and the majority of our players and our staff that went that day were first-time donors and continue to donate to this day. And with Luke and with Stu Middleton, who oversee the Hockey Gives Blood program, those guys have done amazing work at raising awareness for the need for blood donors, and stem cell donors. And what better age group to tap into than, junior hockey and university aged athletes. And, it definitely opened my eyes to how much of an impact you can have without even meeting the person that you're helping. And I think I've got 8 or 9 donations under my belt at this point now. And I was a little bit apprehensive about doing it, but honestly, it's easy. And if it takes 30 minutes out of your day every couple of months to do it to help somebody else, then why wouldn't we want to do it, right? So
good on you, man. And to all of those that are out there doing things that go beyond themselves and give back and provide for others. Another amazing story of what sport can provide within sport and outside of sport. Again, coming full circle back to the COVID stuff and why is sport important? It's important for any number of reasons. And one of which is it's going to deliver a whole lot of information to other people in terms of, what we should and shouldn't be doing within this. There's a lot of, there's a lot of risk and there's a lot of reward in rolling these seasons out and providing these outlets for, in this case with you and your cohort, teenagers, an outlet to the thing, maybe access to the future, a career, or just, getting them out of the things that have been holding them down for the last little while and providing a bit of entertainment for those in the immediate area and surrounding. And I just think all of this is so critically important. And Brian, I really appreciate you being on here tonight. I'll just let you finish this with one last question. And if you had a piece of advice that you would give yourself looking back, let's say 12, 15 years ago while you were in school, what would that be?
Oh, wow. I think it goes back to what I spoke about earlier, is don't be afraid to fail. I think the greatest lessons we learn in life are when we stumble. And as long as we're willing to pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off when we do fail and move on to the next thing, the sky's the limit. Quickly, like I told the students at Sheridan, when you don't be afraid to say no to an opportunity either. I've been fortunate enough to have great experiences, and I've been fortunate enough to have had great opportunities that I've passed up and I've said no on, and I don't have any regrets on doing that. So I think that's another key piece too that people should definitely, especially those that are coming up through the therapy ranks, should definitely be aware of too. So.
Well said. Don't be afraid to fall. Don't be afraid to stumble. Pick yourself up, but also know there are plenty of others out there willing to help you get back to your feet, including those of us in the athletic therapy field. I think this has been an amazing talk. This has been session 61, First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy roundtable brought to you by First Star Therapy, our primary sponsor, Mobility Tape, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapy Association. Brian Cheeseman. Next week we will go Greg Zahn, same time, same channel. Brian, thank you again, man. This has been absolutely fantastic. All the best.
Thanks, James.
Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com. CONSULT@firststartherapy.com. On Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.